Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to call upon your name, to hear your voice. Bless by the word, only by your word, God. We ask you please to move from us any misunderstandings or understandings. Remove from us, God. Your word says that. I pray all of us can truly wrap our heart around that verse that says, if you have anything against your brother, you forgive it, you offer it, for you reconcile. Help us. Without your word, not just to hear. Lord God, your word speak to us, and we become all that you want us to be, Lord. Power and the blood of Christ. Amen. The words of King Lemuel, the utterance which his mother taught him. First thing that we see here is that there was a man named Lemuel. The man that wrote the book of Proverbs is a man named Solomon, otherwise known as Jedediah. The word Jedediah means beloved of the Lord. The word Lemuel means dedicated to the Lord. Dedicated to the Lord. Most scholars agree, and going by a few other scriptures, the name Lemuel was a pet name that his mom called him. Called him Lemuel because he was dedicated to the Lord. If you guys remember the story, you can look it up in 1 Samuel. It's very interesting how his first brother, I think it was 2 Samuel, with his brother, he had an older brother with his mother. Let me start over. King David had her first son with Bathsheba. That son died because of the sin of David, of what he did to Uriah the Hittite. If you don't remember that story, I suggest you look it up. It's a powerhouse. But one of the great things that came out of the death of that child was one of the most amazing verses in the Bible when, now again, we're speaking of Solomon's older brother who went home as a few-day-old baby. David did something that only New Testament people do, because we often say about King David, who is Solomon's father, that he had a New Testament relationship in the Old Testament. That's why we still look to David, some of the things that he wrote are so not the traditional Old Testament, against the law. Also, Solomon wrote that to sacrifice, to love God with your heart is better than sacrifice, basically. He wrote over and over again, which to a true Jew, somebody who is following the law, that's ridiculous. You have to sacrifice. However, David has this affair. This child comes out of it. When the child is born, it's immediately sick. And then David decides to pray and fast. He's very upset, and his servants are mumbling. And all of a sudden, the child dies. The servants say, "Oh my goodness, you can't tell David. I mean, look how upset he is now. If you tell him his son died, he might do something crazy." Kings were known to do that in their misery. They would kill all their staff, you know what I mean? Kings were crazy. So they say, he hears them mumbling, David. He says, "Is the child dead?" They say, "Yes, the child is dead." So he goes and washes his hands and face, and he tells them to prepare a feast and a meal, and he eats. And they're so shocked. What is this that you've done? What is this that you've done? David, like only somebody with a true relationship with the living, loving God, says, "Listen, your child is alive. We knew that God was going to have mercy on me. Now the child is dead." And he says the most amazing thing in the entire Bible. He says, "He will not come back to me without me." Wow. We talk about as soon as he says that, it just opens up a myriad of other scriptures. Like, we don't grieve as the world grieves. We don't mourn as like, just all these other death is swallowed up. And it was David's second son with Bathsheba, with Jedediah, so named by Nathan the prophet, so named Solomon by David, so named Lemuel by his mom. And his mom looked at her son, again, sanctified imagination, and she saw some qualities in him. And a little bit too much like your daddy. I've got to give you some facts of life, young man. A little too much like your daddy. And she says to him, what? My son. And what? Son of my vows. Now it's interesting that Bathsheba, if truly indeed this is Bathsheba, is telling her son, Lemuel, Solomon, Jedediah, and a bunch of other names that we learned last week. Have a lot of names, this guy. If she's telling him he's the son of my vows, the redemption of the name Bathsheba is evident in Scripture, that God held David responsible for what happened. You don't know the story. It was a time when kings go out to war, and David went up to Ruth instead of going out to battle, and saw a woman taking a bath. And I don't know why her name was Bathsheba and she was taking a bath, but she was taking a bath and her name was Bathsheba. And he went and found out that that was one of his general's wives, and he didn't care, because instead of going out to battle and walking around on the roof, you got your head in the clouds, that's what happens. You make terrible choices. But if you look at the genealogy of Matthew, and when it gets to Solomon, it said, he who was born of Uriah's wife. God held him responsible. We don't know what he had to pay for that. All his sins are forgiven, but as an Old Testament saint, he certainly paid a price on earth, if you know the story of David. It's just good information to understand, who it is that's writing this. Bathsheba, her husband, she was, I think, the 13th wife of David, some say, the 13th wife of David. And she looked at her son and she said, oh, there's something about this kid I got to straighten out right from the start. She was the son of his vows. She married David. David made an honest woman out of her, so to speak. You understand that? And it's just so strange that the first was not a son of vows. He died. The second, son of my vows. Now, what I find interesting about that, there's been a study done on everybody that is currently on welfare. If you want to not be on welfare, you have a 95 to 97% chance of not being on welfare if you will do three things. The first thing, get a job, keep a job. The second thing, get a high school diploma. And the third thing is not have a child out of wedlock. If you will do these three things, the chances of you being on welfare when you get older are cut by 95%. 95% of people on welfare break one of those rules or more than one. Now, why is that important to tonight's study? I'm going to tell you why. Because we are going to look at a bunch of things that you can strive to be, strive to do, things that are precious in the sight of God. What to look for in a person, what to look for in a woman, or what to be as a woman. You understand what I'm saying here? Super, super important stuff. 75% of young men in prison have no father figure, are born from single moms. The African American community, when I say African American community, let me clarify that. In the ghetto. In the ghetto, white, black, Hispanic, whatever color, if you are in the ghetto, 70% of the children now are born to single mothers. Thus, the pipeline between street and prison is the reason. When she says, son of my vows, she's trying to tell him something. She makes it clearer. Stay with me. Do not give your strength to women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. Man, oh man. Huh. If you're not giggling, that means you don't know who it is that we're talking about here. It's been well written that your kids will always outdo you. You're a drunk, your kids are going to be drug addicts. You're promiscuous, your kids are going to be pornoholics. You smoke Parliament, they're going to smoke Newport. I mean, the kids are always going to outdo you. Always. This woman looked at her son and said, there's something about you. Don't be like your father. Don't you go having 13 wives. The Torah is very, very clear. Kings are not to multiply wives. I also find it super interesting that the guy that wrote this, or recorded this, gave us the words of his mother after he screwed up. So there's kind of an admonition here. There's an admission of guilt. There's an admission of, look, man, I messed this up. You don't do the same. And the proof of that is carried over, because if you have ever read Ecclesiastes, which I highly suggest after we just finished studying the book of Proverbs, read Ecclesiastes, because it's the writings of Solomon in the latter days of his life, when all he talks about is regret. Why did I do this, and why did I do that, and why did I do this? It's not a book you learn from like the book of Proverbs. It's a book that you learn from as like, wow, I'm not going to do that. That was really dumb. You guys understand what I'm saying? We're going to get rolling. Keep going. Kids, stay with me. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes intoxicating drink. Give me your attention, please. Anybody know the number one city of alcohol consumption? The number one city of alcohol consumption in the United States of America? Anybody? Huh? Doc got it. Washington, D.C. I wonder about the presidents of the past. Imagine, I mean, look, we were all hard on the president we have now, but do you want his job? Do you want to be sitting there while this guy is about to invade another country? Like, what do? Do you say, listen, you got enough of our own problems, you're on your own, and a bunch of people die? Or do you say, no, we're going to protect, but we send our own people, and they're going to die? No matter what this guy does, no matter what decision this guy makes, people die. Have you ever seen a picture of Bill Clinton? This dude's nose, the end of his nose, is so red. He is so alcohol-soaked his body. I mean, he's literally deformed. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen anybody with a big and red nose? That's a throat of alcoholism. This woman knew a little something, didn't she? She said, look here, young man, you're about to become a king. It ain't for you to be drinking. Why? Good question. Lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the justice of all the afflicted. You know what's amazing? There are suggestions in the Bible. There are sometimes you read something in the Bible and you think, maybe I should pray about that. Maybe I should pray about the application of my life. There are a few things you don't need to pray about. What the Bible talks about, the poor and the needy, the widow, the orphan, and the downtrodden. Not a few times. Hundreds and hundreds of times. It's like, listen to me. People always ask me, like, I've been really praying about doing foster care. Me and my wife say the same thing. No, we don't need to pray about that. But why not? Because if you do that or you don't do that, if you think you want to do that, you do that. Because there is nothing. You're going to tell me you started praying about being a foster parent and God said no? Well, God shut the door. It wasn't God shutting that door. Believe me, when we became foster parents, me and my wife, it was the biggest eye-opening blessing of our entire lives. But make no mistake about it, it is the biggest pain. And I don't mean pain here, I mean pain here. Your heart is literally taken out and put on the table. And you watch the perversion of justice, the horrible, horrible ways that the system, especially, in case you don't know, I'm talking about, somebody said Broward County, I think he says Broward County is probably the worst, one of the worst family court problems in the country. In Broward County, the judges get punished by being sent to family court. That's not like, no. That's their punishment. Our judge, me and my wife, were trying to adopt our foster babies. He was already convicted of judicial misconduct, awaiting sentencing. And he was still on the bench judging our case. And all family courts like that. Listen, I mean no disrespect to my brown or black brothers and sisters here, but the things that they tell white people about how to raise a brown or black child is the most disgusting thing. It is the most racist. They think what the counties think about you black people, you should be completely offended. We need to teach our brown children about their culture. And that means drugs, prostitution. You don't know what these liberal people think about you. It is disgusting. Disgusting. Am I lying, foster parents in here? Horrible. That they think that that's what you're about. Like, they think that you guys are a bunch of idiots, and we need to dumb down people for you. No, that's the truth. However, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the justice of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to him who is perishing, and wine to those who are bitter of heart. Medicine. Give them medicine. They're dying. Give them some medicine. It was one of the verses, some people, well, when somebody's dying in the hospital, should you give them morphine? Should you give them this? I mean, should they have to take the pain? They've been giving medicine to people who are dying for thousands of years. No reason somebody should live in pain and say, I don't want to put anything in my body. Listen, you're dying, dude. Take some medicine. There's also like this, and for me, what I like about this, give strong drink to him who is perishing. You know what? I'm not dying. I'm not going to die. I'm going to live. I'm going to stay sober. Be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, is the wrong rights. Wow. You know who people that drink all the time are? People that are dying. You're not dying. You shouldn't be drugging and drinking. Because as soon as you start drugging and drinking, you're dying. My brother died of heart failure from drug abuse at, I don't remember how old he was, 46, 47. He was 2 years younger than me. He died about 8 or 9 years ago. And because he started smoking pot at 15, 16, when I tell you, mentally, he never grew past that. This is a thing they don't want to tell you about herb, right? And pot's legal now, so what's wrong with smoking pot, right? You literally stop growing mentally from the day you start smoking pot. You never get past it. Huh? Well, you can actually grow when you stop. If you stop, you can grow, but it takes time for the THC to get out of your system so that you mentally can start developing again. You do significant damage. Significant damage. My brother is never the same. 13. I mean, he was basically a 16-year-old, 40-some-odd-year-old man's body. And the studies that they don't want to show you because politicians make way too much money from the herbs, from the amount of people who smoke pot every day that are schizophrenic, it's above 50%. The amount of people that murder, that they do these studies of murderers, is over 80% of murderers in jail or regular hospitals. Like, they tell you that pot ain't bad for you, you pot to and pay their taxes. Give strong drink to him who is perishing, verse 6, and wine to those who are bitter of heart. Let him drink and forget his poverty. Remember his misery no more. Open your mouth to the speechless in the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Remember we talked about that? The poor and needy. You don't need to pray about whether you should help poor people. But what should I do? Do it. Well, how should I help poor people? What if they're on drugs? What if they're poor because it's their own fault? What if they're... Tell the poor person, man. That I don't have to explain. I love verse 8 as a verse for the abolition of abortion. We're turning over a broken slate for the ability to give men the rights to make a decision on their unborn child. Open your mouth for the speechless, in the cause of all who are going to die. Let's not go too far into that, but that is big. When I was growing up, there was an actress named Bo Derek. Does anybody remember Bo Derek? If you're a little bit older than me, the young guys don't. In the late 70s, and she was like, oh yeah, I remember that one.
Is it a guy or a girl?
She's a woman. In the late 70s, early 80s, there was a movie called 10. And 10 was a representative of the woman was a 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, Bo Derek was a 10. She was intelligent and she was beautiful. She was built and she was intelligent. Bo Derek was a 10. Matter of fact, this woman, I think, is in her 60s now, and she's still quite good looking. And smart. She's written books. You just look it up. Did you look her up? She's like, basically, why do I bring up 10? Because we're in verse 10. And from this point on, we're going to describe what God sees as a 10. What you now, as a woman, could say, right, here's the thing. Generally speaking, as a man married for 30-some odd years, who has 5 daughters, you're going to take this the whole wrong way, because that's what you won't do. I'm about to read the qualities of a woman that God finds to be. What you should do is listen.
Boom, right.
You can look and see some of these things, like your qualities, and go, yes. But you're not. You're going to look at some things that are not your qualities and go, I'm a failure. Don't do that, man. That's not God. What God does is He looks down at your good qualities and He goes, yes. And you go to God and what about my bad parts? I'll help you with that. But you women are so down on yourselves all the time. You're so defeated. I'm of this and I'm of that. God is a God of redemption. He wants to lift you up and pull you up out of those old things, right? Ready for the qualities of the 10? Who can find a virtuous wife? You see that word for virtuous? That is not the same word as chaste, which means pure or sexually pure. It's not. This is a woman of character. This is a woman of valor. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. First quality we see here is your husband doesn't worry when he gives you the credit card. Your man is not afraid if you have access to the bank account. He's not worried. He's not worried. He doesn't care if you leave the house and you are dressed for the night. Because he knows. Even if you're not, you're going to turn heads. It don't matter. You're his. He's yours. Husband safely trusts. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. Does him good and not evil. Guys, verse 12, we all fall short. Come on. We just don't meet each other all the time. And I think I said this in the last service. It's like the older I get and the softer I get, the gentler I get, but the kinder I get as an older person, the more I realize how hard I've been on this woman my whole life. And I kind of hate myself for it. It's like I was so sure so long that it was her in all these other areas. Oh, hold on. She did the same thing to me. Once she's in there brief moments, get it. I don't care. I just want you to get better. And I walk away and I go, I knew it. I knew she knew it. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. Okay? My wife don't need me. Take a look. My wife, when I met her, she already had her commercial insurance license. She was making money. She didn't. One of the most important qualities that a woman can possess for her husband is to know, I love you, and I need you. I don't need you. I got the Lord. And I'm afraid to work. I ain't one of those sisters that if you've, what am I going to do if you leave? You've often heard me say, when me and my wife have had those really bad fights, I go, look, tell me to keep running out of here. My wife will go, well, don't let the Lord hit you, or the good Lord split you. Because Julie, just find it out. You guys feel me? Sisters, confident in who you are and what you are. Or be a worker. Be a sister who is not afraid to supplement income. There's so much you can do online now. There's so much you can do, even if you have kids. Let that man know. You might bring home the lion's share of money, but if anything happens to you, I got this man. That's a great quality. Attractive, super attractive. The latter part of the Christian, she willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. Now, I'm going to brag all night long about my wife because I want you sisters to know. Me and my wife have taken our pastoralship here. Now, my wife is not, quote unquote, a pastor at this church, but she is very much has the gift of a pastor in leading sisters. She has taught her daughters and she has taught some of you sisters what she has learned over these long years, what she learned from her mother and father. She has applied to her life, she's accentuated the good, she has eliminated the bad, and every week, every day, every month, English is getting better and better, more and more and more and more like the woman that we're describing here. So I will continue to do this and give you an example. So that again, what are you sisters going to do when you hear all this stuff? You're not going to go short. You can say, I got that one. I got that one. I got that one. Because nobody has all the gifts. All right, didn't the Apostle Paul say at the end of 1 Corinthians 13-14, one of those two? Do we all speak in tongues? Do we all have the gift? No. But I'll show you a more excellent way. Right? That's what that would be, chapter 11, 12. Anyway, she brings her food from afar. What does that mean? You know what we have on Tuesdays sometimes? Anybody? Cammy, what do we have Tuesdays? Say it. Taco Tuesday. That's food from Mexico. I ain't lying. Hey, I'm not. My wife finds out food. She's got, oh yeah, you know, I heard about they cook this thing in this country or that country. We have a lot of times on Wednesday night, you'll go in there and you see, and I got a big old plate of spaghetti with meat sauce on it. Italian. I'm not joking. My wife's like a merchant ship. She brings food from faraway countries. She will look up online new recipes. Hey, I saw this recipe. It's really cool. And this spaghetti that you're eating, it has no calories. It's not spaghetti. It's actually plastic. You can eat it because you want. It won't work out. I don't read that stuff. But she does. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household. It's often said, a man works from sun to sun. The woman's work is never done. You ever hear that one? Man works from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Now, some of you ladies are not morning people, and some of you are morning people. I am always amazed when I'm at work and I see a guy coming in. I just had this guy used to sit next to me, and then that woman he would have a 5-course meal set out there. I'm telling this dude to get there, and he'd be pulling out these Tupperwares, and he'd be pulling out 5-course meal. And we sit there like, do you have any idea how good your wife is? Because he'd be on the phone. Honey, I'm on the He's stronger. It wasn't you, guys. I'm telling you, what a great testimony, what a great legacy. Again, she rises while it is yet night, provides food for her household, and a portion for her maidservants. You know what? She serves the servants. That is a godly person. She serves the servants. All right? She considers a field and buys it from the profits she plants a vineyard. Again, this is a woman of great resource. This is a woman who says, I would like a nicer car, but we can't afford one. Watch me get it anyway. What are you talking about? Leave it to me. Leave it to me. She finds some way to make some extra money. She'll find something to do, some way to get it. She will, hey honey, I want to buy that car. Oh, we can't afford that car. Yeah. Girl, you got that on me. That's a good woman. Verse 17. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. Verse 17, a little on the controversial side. Hey, it was Chuck Smith who said it. Anybody? The barn needs painting. Paint the barn. What does that mean? Well, you ladies have this thing. Ready? Do I look fat? Like the worst thing a man could ever hear. Ken Graves, he has a great joke where he says, when a woman says, do I look fat in this? The proper answer is not, I seem fat. The proper answer is, no, baby. You gotta be fat to look fat. And you ain't fat. Bring that over here. Ladies, if you feel fat, if something needs to be done, do it. It's that simple. If the barn needs paint, paint the barn. If it don't need paint, don't paint the barn. If you are a man here and you've ever said anything other than, baby, you are gorgeous, beautiful, and wonderful, you don't deserve anything. And I hope you don't get it. That's what you said then. I'm telling you right now. Hey, the barn woman, is that who's laughing? She's laughing as well. David, well, I got you on that one, huh? Usually it's Karen I get on him. Get you giggling, that's the end of it, huh? Right? Huh?
Done some barn.
He's done some barn painting. She perceives that her merchandise is good and her lamp does not go out by night. I love verse 18. Let me tell you what I love about verse 18. You ready? Ladies, know your value and your worth in Christ. Then your husband will recognize it. I have often told you the story about I had no idea how talented and gifted my wife was. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's my shame. I just thought I married a trophy wife. She's the best looking woman I ever seen. I couldn't believe that I should be seen in public with me. That was just amazing to me. And I didn't know that not only was she beautiful, but so talented. If you've ever seen my wife decorate a house, inside and outside, this woman could make so much. If she wanted to, put down her kids, put down her grandkids, put her husband on hold, and become an interior decorator. You ain't never seen nothing. You go to my house, you're like, you ready for this? Where did you get that table? I found it on offer up. I sanded it down to the bones. We finished it, painted it myself. What? My wife is. I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan. Never, ever, ever let you forget your man. 'Cause she's a woman. Let me tell you how that happened. By standing back and letting God be God in her life. Not by me. Listen, if it was up to me, she would be none of those things. It was her finding who she is in Christ, believing in who she is. A man that keeps a woman down, a man who doesn't realize the value in the woman that he has, probably never will. Probably never will. I remember watching one time, this is kind of funny. Does anybody remember the Newlywed Show? You gotta be a little older to remember Newlyweds. There's this show, and I don't these Newlyweds, and they would ask a question, and hold up the card, and if they both got the answer the same, they got the winner. Right? I remember one time, and I don't even know why I remember this. I probably saw it when I was 15. There was a guy and a girl there, and the guy said to the host, what was his name? Compliments? I think it was. Not sure I believe it. But he actually said to her, yeah, I'm better looking than she is. And he looked at her and goes, oh, no, you're not. No, as a guy, I'm better looking than she is as a girl. And I remember, I don't know why I remember, I was thinking to myself, now, with 30 years in retrospect, I look back and go, I'm sure the first one I'm married. Think like the arrogance of a man. Look, there's a couple of things that I know. One of them is, I married up the ladder. I married way up the ladder. Please, figure it out, dude. Ladies, perceive that your merchandise is good. And now, there's a really excellent, if you do any studies on this, is an excellent, verse 18 is excellent in the intimacy area too, which we'll study at a couples conference. She stretches out her hands to the distaff and her hand holds the spindle. Does anybody know what that is? A distaff was a rod. And what they would do is they would take cotton or wool and they'd wrap it around and then they'd roll it out and it would go onto a spindle where they made the wool or made the yarn. And so her hand holds the spindle, the rod, while her other hand. What does it basically mean? She's resourceful. She's not afraid to work. She's not afraid to get her hands dirty. This woman here that God's describing, this 10, she don't need somebody to come in and take care of her house. She got it. She got this. You follow me? She extends her hands to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. Never forget that. We ain't just making it for ourselves. How many times? Hundreds and hundreds of times in Scripture, we extend our hands to the poor. If you don't have a family that you've adopted, you don't have anybody that you're taking care of, you don't have anybody like that, and I really highly suggest what a blessing it is to find somebody less fortunate than yourself. No. Just find somebody. Find somebody and say, you know what? We'll open your heart to pay their electric bill every month. Pay their electric bill. I mean, if they're trying, obviously we're not going to do this to enable them to do drugs or live wickedly. But then if they're working hard, they're trying, they've got a family member, you know, I'm going to pay your phone the next few months for you. Do that. That is what the Bible calls an alms. A-L-M-S. Alms. Just, the Lord Jesus said, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. Don't even keep track of it. Continuing. She's not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. I mean, in our day and age, is basically get the winter clothes out of the closet, get the spring down. Now, I don't make anybody feel bad because there's a precious sister in there who I love very much. She told me this funny story the other day. So I'm not going to mention her name, but listen, if your Christmas tree is still up, don't wait till Easter. In my house, my mother, God rest her soul, she smoked a lot of pot in the 70s and 80s. Our Christmas tree was up until it was down. It was bad. It was bad. Not afraid of snow. Her household is clothed with scarlet. She finds the places to get them clothes. You ever go anywhere with my wife? Her eye is like an eagle eye. She's driving to the restore. Pull over. Restore. 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 You know how much money my wife is saving? Spending my money? You have no idea that every time my wife spends $100, she's saving me $100+. I spent thousands of dollars last year on things that actually saved me money. I still can't figure out how that works, but I promise you, it works. Did anybody not get that? Brothers, you get that, right? The brother's just like afraid. You know, you feeling this one, Jonah? Jonah, every time she spends money, she tells me she saved me money. And I said, but you didn't have to spend this money to save me money. You could have just saved me money. I saved you right. I refinished the whole thing, but you paid. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Guys, sisters, it's incumbent upon us to honor our spouses more than we honor the waitress or waiter at the restaurant we go to. There's a time for slippers and a moo-moo, and there's a time for a little Victoria. Feel me? Okay? If you're walking around and your boxes are hanging halfway down and you have your fat belly hanging out, and your wife comes home from work or wherever she is, and you we used to do this thing in my house. We walk around my house, and every once in a while, we saw this at a couples conference years ago. We used to go to conferences all the time. We still go once in a while, but so it's really good thing to do. There's this guy, and every time his wife would walk by, and we started doing this, he'd go, oh, and she'd go, what? I used to leave the house. Forget it, honey. I'm praying for you till you get home. You see how this fits in? Look at it. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine in purple. Man, like honor each other a little more. It keeps things kind of free and fresh. You know what I mean? Yes, no, you guys not getting this? See, I warned you this was going to happen. I warned you. You guys are not like, right, yes, I got that one. You're like, oh, I told you don't do that to yourself. I know, I'm looking around and I know most of the women here. And most of you guys are like namming most of these things. And all you're doing is worrying about the one you got. I can see it. I can smell it. Oh, I failed that one. I didn't do that one. I knew that. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. Hey, single brothers and sisters here, this is the kind of woman you're looking for. This is the kind of woman you want to be. Strength and honor. You shall rejoice in time to come. Are you looking for Mr. Right? Or are you looking for Mr. Right now? Ask yourself that question. Because I'm telling you the same thing, single brothers and sisters here, that you've heard 1,000 times. When God brings the right one, the wait will be worth it. If God doesn't bless, if the enemy brings the right one, it means put it out. You'll know it. Oh, you'll know it. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. What the problem is, you have to be wise to know what wisdom is. And the problem with women is their men are stupid. We don't know when they're opening their mouth with kindness. They're too stupid to know. They're too hard to hear. For so long, you think a quality that they have is something that, and then all of a sudden, you realize it's the best. And you're like, man, why didn't I stir that up? Why did I try to think of something like that? I was going to say that, but now that you said it, I'm going to say it. Carrie Ann is has the kindest, gentlest, softest heart. You talk to her, and every time you talk to her, she cries. Now, as a husband, that can either really annoy you, are you crying again? Or you can go, and believe me, and we all have that, brothers here, we all have that. Something that our wife does that annoys the crap out of us until she doesn't do it anymore. And then all of a sudden you miss it. What's the old saying? You don't know what you got till it's gone, right? Man, I am so sorry that you guys are not seeing this. This is supposed to be like an uplifting Bible study. And I feel like I'm preaching to a morgue. David's the only one laughing. At least he can laugh about his failures. Yes, exactly. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. You guys ever watch that old show, Married with Children? She sat on the couch eating bonbons. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Be careful how long you are sitting on that couch watching TV. Be careful. Don't. Oh, you're talking to me. I'm not talking to nobody. I'm just saying. Just saying. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. You know what the crazy thing about having your children rise up and call you blessed? You ready for this, ladies? The older they get, the more blessed they'll call you. And believe me, the more children they have, the more they'll call you. My oldest daughter knows in jealousy what a mom she had. How did you do it? How did mom do it, Dad? How did mom do it? My answer is always the same. I don't know. I didn't know. Yeah. I'm telling you. Her children rise up and call her blessed. If you will do some of these things, if you will apply these things, your children will rise up and call you blessed, man. And they will praise you. And her husband also. Now that is an excellent word. When Austin first got married, Austin wasn't really free with the praises. Like, I'm real, huh?
Still not.
No, he really got a lot better with it. So he used to ask me because for sincerity and not sincerity, sometimes you gotta force sincerity sometimes. But I'm really good with words. I always put actions behind it. But you're like, how do you remember? Set my clock. I literally have apps on my phone and everything. You call your wife and tell her, just want you to know, your feet must be hurting. I've been running around in my mind all day. Crazy. I'm not good with words. King Graves used to talk about that old farmer. Old farmer says, baby, don't you love you when I married you? Don't work, man. Don't work. NG. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. You know the crazy thing about verse 29? I do not know a woman better than my wife. You know, I just, so stupid. Like, I don't know a better woman than my wife. Like, here's the crazy thing. And I'm sorry that this hurts anybody's feelings. I've been in that office, premarital, marital, counseling singles, 20 plus years. And I've yet to leave that office and go, yeah. Every single time I leave, I was like, so bad, isn't that crazy? Why do we complain when we got the best thing sitting next to us? I love the last two verses because they kind of sum everything up. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Charm is deceitful. Beauty is passing. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. Ready, guys? You ready? What quality are you looking for in a woman? She loves God more than she loves you. If you don't find a woman who loves God more than she loves you, believe me when I tell you, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret it hard. Yeah, but I'm tired of waiting. I understand. Listen, I don't care if you talk to somebody who got married at 18, 19, or you talk to somebody who got married at 40. They're going to tell you the same exact thing. I felt like it was never going to happen. I was waiting so long. Now you talk to those same people who married a godly person, man or woman, and they will tell you, well worth the wait. They got married at 18 or they got married at 40. Or more than that. The right person is worth the wait. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. What I applied on verse 31, chapter 31, verse 31, end of the book of Proverbs, end of our studies in the book of Proverbs and the wisdom books. We'll be starting to read the book of Jeremiah, the weekly prophet. We're like, oh, wow. Don't micromanage it, though. Don't micromanage it. I'll tell you a funny story that happened. I don't know if my wife remembers this or not. It was the last time. It was 20 years ago. My wife was a little bit on the disorganized side because she got thrown into life very young. Me and my wife got married. She was still a teenager when we started dating. We had kids very young, and she kind of had an organization problem, let's say. Now, back in the day, they used to have these things called day planners or a day runner. You know what that is? So what I would do is my wife, oh, honey, you know, my wife's amazing. I had a kid 2 weeks later. People were like, do you need to have a baby? Yeah. And she's like, honey, I got you, girl. I put her on this plan. Here's our diet, here's our, my wife running 4 or 5 miles, no problem, right? So what I did is I bought this day plan, and I started laying out my whole wife's life. Anything, this is an island, this. And one day when I was filling out this day plan, I bought this thing, and for 3 months I was filling it out for the next year for her. And one day I was filling it out because I used to do this. I used to get up early in the morning, still do, spend time in the Word, spend time in prayer, and then I would start to fill this thing out. And one time after I was finished, the Lord knocked on my head and said, what's she going to use you for? Well, yes, chapter 31, verse 31. Let her take care of your God will, you love her up to it. But don't micromanage her. Don't try to make her what you want her to do. God made her to be exactly what she is. God will continue to work. He who began the work will complete. Give her of the fruit of her hands. Give her of the fruit of her hands. Anyway, that was the application for that. When I promised you guys, I scratched the surface of chapter 31, just ever so slightly. Hardly even went below the top layer. There's so much more there. And then the application also to this, a lot of this could be talking about the Lord Jesus and the intimacy aspects of marriage. We just scratched the surface. But ladies, please, do not leave here feeling down about yourself. You guys are phenomenal. We have... You're in church on Wednesday night. Really? You're in church on Wednesday night. Give yourself a break, all right? You're doing great. You're going to continue to do good. You single brothers and sisters there, you know what to strive for and toward. And I personally thank my wife. Proverbs 31. Don't tell her how. I suggest you all do the same. Do it through her hands, man. Let her be. Right? Amen? Father God, we thank you for your word. We thank you for the perfect picture, God. We think about all the things the Bible tells man to do, God. And know how we fall short, God. We pray that help us to be kind and gentle to them, and we're not. Help us to be understanding and merciful, and we're not. God, help us to be men of integrity, men of self-control, men of kindness and gentleness. Thank you so much, God, for this picture. We love you and we offer you this heart of ours to encourage our women to do these things. And the ladies are right now convicted by this word, God. I pray, please don't give them conviction. Give them encouragement, God. Just give them an encouraging word.